So we've gone on a little bit of a voyage of discovery just to see what the wear is like on this T110 lump. And we've got the measuring out, we've got the book out, feeler gauges and verniers and everything else that's good for this. We've been checking the piston sizes and any related damage to these. You can see that there is a little bit of scoring there, but in exactly the areas you would probably expect it to be. That's perhaps a little bit worse than you would otherwise like. But having checked the gapping in the on the O-rings, on the oil rings, the gaps are actually oversized, and so I think what we're seeing there, as well as a little bit of piston slap, is also just a little bit of gases escaping past the ring. So I think that's what's caused that little bit of scoring on each side. As you can see, it's either side of the pin. So on the other side, very similar. Need to wipe it down a little bit, but exactly the same. And also, what I've noted, scraping off the carbon on the top, is that they are actually already oversized. And with this particular engine, 650, I'm reading the manual to find out what's going on with it. We know that that is as much of a bore increase as we can take. So those oversized pistons are the maximum. So I'll grab a torch, have a look inside the bore, and actually doesn't look so bad. You see it's still got a lot of the honing already been done. There is nothing really that comes out as being particularly bad, and I can't, when I stick my fingers in there, I can't feel anything, run my nail across it. There's no indentations or big score marks or anything crazy like that. A little bit of scoring on that side. I mean, scoring is probably a bit of a heavy word for it, really. So I think honing them out, new oil rings and new oversized pistons, and that'll be it for this. I've already had a look at the tappets, and on the bottom of those tappets, still got them screwed in place, or rather tie wrapped in place. But the bottoms of these, there's a little bit of wear, as you'd expect, but nothing too bad. Just where the cam rubs against them, goes over the top of them, just lifts them up and down. Running your nail across there, can't really feel any indents. And that's both inlet and outlet as well. A little bit more on this side, but really nothing to be concerned about. So I don't think we have to worry about those. So I think the head's okay. I think what I want to do is replace those parts. When I took the pistons off, there wasn't really any play through the bushes either, so I think the bushes are okay. I don't think they've worn through on the rods. There was no sort of lateral play. The pins were quite nicely in there, and to a point where I actually put a little bit of heat through the piston head themselves just to get those pins out. So I think they're okay, they're good, there's no play, certainly nothing that I'm worried about. So yeah, there we go, that's where we're at with that. Right, let's give it a little wipe out first. A little bit of oil already sprayed in there. The idea is to make it better, not to move around some old shit in there that is going to cause more harm than good. Give that bit of a clean out. Then we'll lubricate it up, set up the tool onto my little drill, and we'll make a few passes down the inside of each cylinder just to see how that comes out. So all I want to do is just release the pressure off of this. I want it on the lowest setting, because we're really only looking to take a tiny little bit of the surface off. I'm not looking at taking loads of material out. Okay. We'll do now. Inside there. Okay, get more. Okay, so I made a few more passes, and what we're looking for, we're going to need a little bit of light, but you can see the right hand one has been done and the left hand one hasn't. That's looking much better. See the crosshatch there? There aren't any real dull parts inside there, so we can't see really any low spots or anything that needs some more attention. So I'm going to move on to doing the left hand one. Okay, so that's that all honed up. Looks pretty good in there. See crosshatch going on. Looks to have taken out everything that we needed to. Any marks that were left behind from where it was previously seized. So I'm going to give that a good clean out. I'll use some more lubricant and then wipe it all out. Make sure it's nice and clean, and then I'll put some oil on there as well, just to make sure it doesn't rust in between continuing on with the engine build. There we go. So over here we've got our new box of bits. A new oil filter, some new push rods. I did notice that there is some damage on these ones. You can probably see just a little bit of missing material there, so decided, even though they were straight, they are worn, so we'll get those replaced. We've got new seals, obviously vitally important, so we'll be using a fair selection of those during the whole process of the engine build, the top end anyway. And then in this box we've got our LF Harris oversized pistons, rings, etc. So next up we are going to be gapping the piston rings. Now obviously they're coming out of a new pack. Chances are the gaps are not going to be correct, and so what we're going to need to do is put them inside the cylinder. We use a little piston just to square them up inside there, measure it with feeler gauge, and then check that the tolerance is correct. I know that the this particular engine 15 thou gap is optimal, and so that's the gap that we're going to be looking for. That's going to be for all of them, and then once we have gone through that process, taken off any material that we might need to. So I've just noticed that the packaging on these actually tells you whereabouts they go. So the one I've just opened now is the oil. The oil one is the one that scrapes the oil off of the cylinder, so that's going to be the first one, or rather the one that goes on the bottom of the piston. That was rather kind. And also, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, however, written on the top it actually says top, and as well as that gives you the size of the piston. In this case we're 40 thou over, we're oversized pistons, so the rings need to be oversized as well, and it actually has that printed on the top of the the ring as well. Very handy. First, second, oil. Pistons. There we go. 40 over. And we'll pop that in there. There we go. Thou. We'll see what the gap's like. Yeah, can't get that in there, so we're definitely going to need to take some material off of that. We're going to have to go through the process of doing this with all 6. So I think what I'll do is I'll show you what I'm going to do with the first one, and then you can imagine in your head I'm going to go through and do it all with the rest of the rings. So we'll time lapse that, I think. So over here we have this wedged in my vise with a little windy tool, little windy handle, and all you have to do is very carefully, you can do it either way, all you're trying to do is take a little bit of material evenly off of the piston ring, and this little grinder is going to do that job for us. So I'm going to pinch that on there. We'll take a little bit off, and then we'll pop it back in. So trying to measure it, you can already see it's not going to go in there. The gap's not quite big enough, so we haven't taken enough material off. So as you can imagine, it comes back out the cylinder, goes back onto the grinder, and we take some more material off, then it goes back in the cylinder, we measure, and we keep going until we get to that magic number, 15 thou gap. Okay, so I was lucky enough through that process that I only have to do 3 of the pistons. The other 3 measured perfectly 15 thou. So that's a bit of a result. That's been a little bit quicker. So the next part of the process is to take the rings, put them on the pistons. I think we're also going to get a couple of these little retainers, put them on the inside part of the piston, just to make life a bit easier when we come to put those on later, and then yeah, continue with the build. Next up, let's get the rings on. So what we're going to do now is put the new gasket on. We've got a brand new gasket set here. Everything in there that we need. We've got the head gasket, we've got this lower gasket, we've got the little white rubbers that go on to the push rod covers, so they're going to get replaced. A bunch of other bits and bobs as well. I think the rocker box cover gaskets, they're all in there, they're going to get changed. So yeah, first things first, get this pack open, get the new one over the top and on here. We've already checked the threads to make sure that they're not fouled up or any problems are going to, you know, not to put the cylinder on and then find that we can't get the nuts on. That would be a bit silly. So we've done all that. We've got some assembly lube ready to go as well. So we'll crack on with the build. Okay, so here we've got our next gasket. Slide over there quite nicely. I think there's two ways of doing this really, and the way I'm going to go for is to put the pistons on here first and then to slide the cylinder over the top. The other way you can do it is to put the pistons rather, in the cylinders, and then as a complete unit drop it over and then put your pins in. I'm going to go the other way. So I'm going to pop these pins in, tiny little things. Be a little bit tricky to get them in without losing one somewhere it shouldn't want to go. There we go. Ah, perfect. Right, that first one's in, lovely. A bit of excess lube there, we'll just wipe that off. A little bit of excess pushed through on this side as well, so we'll wipe that off. Okay. Okay, next clip. Properly awkward, these things. Some of them had a little tang on them, so you can get some pliers in there and help it along. Oh, there we go. But these ones didn't have them. So anyway, make sure it's all inside the run, the little runner, little indent that it's supposed to be in. And it is. Last thing we need is for that to jump out. On the other side, okay. Pistons are on. Next up, cylinder in. Don't need any of that to stay in there now. There we go. Okay, so a couple of things we need to do. First thing is stop the pistons moving up and down, because once we start putting the cylinder over the top of them, that downward pressure is going to force everything to rotate, and it's just going to move away from us and we're never going to get anywhere. So what I've got here is a couple of little 20mm plastic lengths of pipe which we can put along there, and we can now rotate everything around like that, and now the pistons will sit nice and steady and not move anywhere. So that's the first thing. So next thing is to make sure that the gaps on the rings are not lined up. They can't be lined up. They need to be, well, 360 degrees, three of them, 120 degrees difference between them. So I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter whereabouts that gap is. So what we'll do is we'll put one there, then we'll have the top one over here and the middle one like so. So now what we have is a gap at the bottom over there, gap in the middle over here, and a gap at the top over there. All nicely misaligned. Now we'll do the same for this one. Okay, so I managed to find, laying around the workshop, Jubilee clips. So I'm going to undo those, pop them over the pistons just to make my life an awful lot easier. Need to position them right. Don't do them up too tight, just enough so that it holds everything in, but should still slide out the way as I pop the cylinder on. So, on cylinder, and that way round. Away we go. Loosen it off a smidge. Slide down. Okay. A bit further. Oh, she wants to go. Okay. Just undo this one. Get that out of the way. Excuse me. Do that one. Get that one out of the way. There we go. Right. Get these out of the way now. And put the rest of the way down. Not quite there. Boom. That's it. In place. Lovely. Nice and seated. Here we go. Lovely. Right. Get the nuts back on, tighten them up, and move on to the next stage. Those off, don't need them on there anymore.